Clyde, do you know what the best workout is you can get with a single motion, a single exercise? What the most, let me rephrase, what the most efficient, comprehensive workout is you can get with a single exercise?
I do not know. What is the optimal workout?
It's rowing. Rowing is the perfect exercise. It works out every muscle on your body, at least according to my in-laws who are obsessed with rowing. If they're listening, I should say my in-laws who are great at rowing. I didn't know anything about rowing when I, started getting to know this family. And I made the mistake of conflating rowing and paddling. Paddling is still a hell of a workout, but it's not rowing. There's a lot of paddling on this episode, and that's where I have my strongest opinions. Welcome to Survivor Analytics, the show where we talk about how to win Survivor based on how people didn't win Survivor. We're watching Survivor Panama, Season 12.
Bit of a delay there.
I had to check
with the season
top of the
title.
I had to check. It's Panama, but I forgot the number. Episode, it's 8 on Paramount Plus. Anyway, I'm the true expert. Wait, no.
You are not the true expert.
I'm the true expert. I'm the voice of the people. My name's Jack. With me, as always, is the true expert. What's up, Clyde?
What's up, party people? Another flawless intro, Jack. I couldn't have done it better myself. You are right that this is episode 8. Technically, it should be episode 7 because it follows the sequence of the actual season, but the real episode 7 of Survivor Panama is the closer look where they give you all the behind the scenes footage from the first half of the season, which still doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I feel like I would rather have the closer look at the end of the season and then it's just a season long blooper reel, but you only get it for the pre-merge. I normally watch that because I am the true expert. That's my responsibility on this podcast, and I didn't do that this week. I was actually visiting Jack. So if you're going to blame anyone, you have to blame Jack for that as well. To what you said at the beginning, what do you mean by this episode was paddling? Like, it was underwhelming, or?
No. What I want to talk about is the paddling that Lamina has to do to go to Kasaya.
Oh,
the actual act of rowing the canoe, paddling the canoe. There's a difference. Do not say paddling to a rower or rowing to a paddler. They get worked up. When they have to paddle across the 7 seas to get from one camp to the other. That's what I want to talk about here in a minute. But that's my biggest focus for the episode.
Okay, well, outside the sea-long paddle that we get in the first 5 minutes, I'll say just on the surface, this was a bit underwhelming for me. We had a whole discussion last week about how the merge of Panama has a lot of potential. You have this majority Kasaya tribe that was dysfunctional for the first entire half of the season. A lot of the Kasaya players are creating chaos, and you would think going into the merge that group would disband, but it didn't work out like that. And it felt like a surefire thing after the immunity challenge that they would stick together. So strategically, this was kind of underwhelming, but it's still Survivor. I still had a fun time with it, and I'm still enjoying the season.
Yeah, we hop in with some good old-fashioned Survivor suffering. It's raining once again at Kasaya. More flooding, more misery. They're cold, and they're in bed. Everybody else in the tribe is in their nice little set of spoons, all laid out nice in the utensil drawer. And then there's one rogue fork, and that's Courtney, who doesn't want to cuddle with Shane and can't get him to share the blanket. And apparently, all night, rather than let her into the warmth of their little cuddle puddle, he's been elbowing her in her sleep and keeping her awake. So that was par for the course with Shane's attitude towards women. Even in sleep, he seems to be reprehensible.
I think it was last week you said that Shane, when he's walking around camp, he looks like a baby. The way he puffs out his chest and kind of sticks out his butt at the same time. And I didn't notice it until this episode. That's just his natural state.
Yeah.
All the time.
You see it, right?
I do see it. Whether he's at the beach talking strategy or competing in a challenge, he's always in that one pose. So, but I do agree with you. It is kind of ridiculous that the rivalry between Courtney and Shane extends to the unconscious realm when Shane has no clue what's going on.
Meanwhile, Bruce is also working on his rock garden some more. I don't understand how it's getting so messy. He's having to clean it every morning because there's beach debris every morning. I don't get how there's that much stuff building up. I wonder if off camera, Danielle, who, by the way, is in this episode, you wouldn't know it, maybe Danielle's going over there and just throwing shit on the rock garden to mess with him.
Well, there's someone else that has taken a couple trips over to the rock garden. Courtney. Is known for doing her yoga in the rock garden. I think she's the one causing the chaos.
Now, Courtney's a patron of the rock garden.
She is not welcome at the rock garden. Bruce made that abundantly clear.
I think she's welcome, but you can't do yoga in a construction site. That's the difference. She was trying to use it before it was open to the public.
Do you think it's open to the public now, or is it still in the construction phase?
I am hoping that next week we find out if Bruce says, welcome everybody, or if it's just for him. Yeah. I was expecting we get some grand opening.
That's something we didn't get to see in this episode, because when the Lamina tribe arrives on the beach, that rock garden is at the dead center of the camp. It's right in front of their tribe's flag. You would think that the Lamina people would walk over the rock garden on the way there, but we never get to see any of that. I don't think the rock garden is open right now. I think it's still technically under construction. I think a more interesting question is what happens first? Bruce goes home or the rock garden reaches its final stage?
I mean, I think there's a real chance that in 2 weeks, Bruce goes home and his exit confessional is, man, I didn't get to finish my rock garden, but we'll see. Do you want to go to the actual merge or do you have anything else?
That's really it. Not much happens at Lamina. They get a message saying that they got to head over to the Kasaya tribe. Quick side note, great move by production to have the merge occur at Kasaya as opposed to Lamina. I just feel like the Kasaya tribe has so many more memorable locations. You have the rock garden, you have Shane's stump that he claimed for himself back in episode 3 or 4. You have the shelter that can't fit Bob Dog. You have the Charmin outhouse. A lot of the season's iconic spots are all at Kasaya. So I think they made the right call having them merge over there. If they merged at Lamina, then Bruce has to start all over on the rock garden. Shane has to find a new stump. It's too much going on.
Okay, I'll give you all of that. There's a lot of furniture. There's a lot of set pieces at Kasaya. It also floods every day. And I can't decide if that's good planning on production's part to say, we're going to make these people sleep in this the whole time, right? Or if it's bad. I think it's good. It's good for the show. It's good drama. But to put them in the worst conditions. It's time to merge. We get a quote from Austin. Quote, Marvin Gaye said it best. Let's get it on up in this piece. Not exactly what Marvin Gaye said.
I don't think that's what he said.
He did not say up in this piece. But okay. Lamina find a boat full of supplies and are told, don't open this until you get to Kasaya. You're merging. So they're forced to paddle across open sea. They are given a map with a very curvy line, by the way. It is not a straight route. It is like a dotted line that moves like a cartoon. Like, did you ever read The Family Circus growing up, the comic strip?
No, I haven't heard of that before. What is that?
Terrible. It's one of these comic strips that's been around for 60 years at least. It's a single panel every day. And it's just a garbage comic about these little kids. Oh, it's been going since 1960. It appears in 1,500 newspapers. It has been in continuous production since 1960. It is now on its second artist. And basically it's following these 4 kids with their parents, all running around. The kids haven't aged. Originally, the dad was a veteran of World War II, and now he has a smartphone. It's terrible. It's terrible. But
now he likes to play doodle jump.
But it's very famous for its dotted lines. So if a kid is running through the house and creating havoc, there's like a dotted line following him to show where he's been, right?
Oh, okay.
And so that dotted line is basically the map that they get. Like, oh, follow this curvy route that goes nowhere, right? This is sadistic on production's part. We're going to take the people who don't have as much food, who are down on numbers, who are recovering from food poisoning,
And they're missing a member. Sally is on Exile Island. She gets
Take to the seas. Start paddling. Dummies, you're all going to go home over the next 3 weeks, but we're going to tire you out first to make sure that you do. Like, can production be any more obvious that they want Shane and Cirie and Courtney at the end?
I don't think this is rigging by production.
Yes, it is.
I think this is Kasaya getting what they deserve. They won more challenges in the pre-merge. You're the challenge guy. I thought you would agree with the idea that if you win more challenges, you should have some kind of result going into the merge. Not only do they get the numbers advantage, but they also get home field advantage.
Numbers are enough. No, okay. Home field advantage and numbers, yeah, they deserve that. But the penalty to Lamina of go wear yourself out more. Yeah. Paddling is hard work, man, especially on rough waters like that. So I might have told this story on the podcast before, but have I told you about the first time I really paddled in rough seas?
I think you've told me this before.
So to make it very quick, I was in Oregon with my now fiance, and we were with her family, who are, again, all very, very good rowers, like creme de la creme of the human race when it comes to rowers, right? And we are paddling. Emma and I are paddling across a little strait in a rowboat. And it is a tidal body of water, so it's got waves. We don't have life jackets. It's August, but the water is about 50 degrees. Like, it's hypothermia. There's a hole in the boat. So when we get to the other side, we have to flip it over on the beach and leave it until we are ready to come back in. On the way back, the waves are so choppy. Emma's a pro at all things, nautical. And so she's taking the lead and helping me angle the boat into the waves so that we're not getting more water in the boat that makes it harder to paddle, and then we sink and we drown and we die. And these people who are professional rowers are on shore laughing at us as we drown. As I'm struggling, trying to prove myself, having already made a comment about paddling to all these rowers that wasn't well received, I look up, and on the deck of the house that we're rowing towards, they're all spectating. They have a telescope pointed at us. They're watching me struggling. And so I know roughly how these people are feeling. That's my point.
Imagine you were going to shore. You saw all the pro rowers up top watching you with the binoculars. Not only are they watching, but they're looking at the food supply and eating whatever's left. That way, when you get back from the water, from that long journey, there's nothing left for you. Because that's exactly what Kasaya does here. They feast on all the rice to make sure that Lamina gets even more depleted. It doesn't really work out for them because they're bringing the entire lunch, the merge feast, in their boat, which is also kind of wild. That production said not only do you have to row all the way to the other beach, but you're also going to serve as FedEx for Kasaya. Yeah. You're the one bringing all the food.
That merge feast is girl dinner, right? Like... It's wine, cheese, and a bunch of stuff that's pickled. That's the definition of girl dinner as I understand it. And so it kind of does bite Kasaya in the butt. I think Aris says he regrets eating all the rice because now he's not as hungry for the good stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. We get the entire merge feast, and then they start reconstructing the shelter. They want to make it bigger so that way all the Lamina people can fit. They also want to add the tarp on top so that way they don't get drenched at night. And as all this is going on, we start to get some insights into the dynamics of this new merged tribe. I didn't write down the tribe's name. Bruce paints it on a flag. It's related to the word gypsy, but I don't remember.
It's Gitanos.
Okay. So they're working on the new Gitanos shelter. And Terry immediately steps up as the leader of this group. He's directing people on where to put the specific pins, where to set up the tarp. And this is kind of what you get from Terry. He's someone who cannot take a step back and just let other people lead the way. And by stepping up to the front, he's painted as the leader of Lamina, which was already the notion of the Kasaya tribe going into the merge. They were already sending him to exile because they thought he was the head of that group. And when he does this, people like Shane and Aris pick up on it. Aris says in confessional that Terry is basically Captain America. Shane says that they're going to let him build the shelter and then vote him out when he's all done. So you've been pretty pro Terry throughout this podcast.
Yes.
I think this is one of the worst episodes of the season for him, and I think it starts with his actions the second he gets on that merge beach.
I am very down on some of Terry's moves here in a little bit. I think that taking the lead on the shelter is fine, because here's what he's trying to do. He's a military man, right? He's former Air Force.
Yeah.
He's coming in, putting on his Joe Torre hat, who you now know who that is. Shout out to your dad for, respecting baseball as a quality sport. He's a man of taste.
Yeah, my dad texted me after last week's episode and disowned me as a son for not
justifiably,
knowing.
correctly,
Okay.
I might add.
Okay.
My God. He's putting on his Joe Torre hat. He's establishing order on a beach full of chaos. And he is showing everyone who might be on the fence about Kasaya that, hey, there are greener pastures. Come on over to Lamina. Join us. We know how to do things, and we're nice. He's not doing it in a controlling way. He's just offering his expertise, and people are listening, right? He's naturally charismatic. I'd follow him into war. I guess for the Air Force, you don't really have to be like, charge, but, know, that's not really how that works, but...
You'd fly behind him into war.
I don't hate this move from him. I don't like every other strategic conversation he has on the beach this episode, but the shelter thing I think is fine.
See, I just think it starts with the shelter because it confirms their bias that Terry is the leader of that group. And then we get to Terry's other strategic decisions. And the first major storyline we have here is that Bruce is in the middle. Bruce was on the bottom of the original Kasaya tribe 2 weeks ago. After he got some votes at tribal council, Shane straight up said in the shelter, we should have voted out Bruce with Bruce right there. Yeah. So Bruce knows he's on the outside of that group.
Now, I will point out, he might have been asleep. We've never heard him acknowledge that. That was was at night, and he is old.
He is old. That is fair.
We've never gotten a confessional from Bruce where he has had anything negative to say about Shane.
But at the very least, he got 2 votes in that tribal council. He knows that there are people on that tribe that do not want to work with him. He's in this power position because he finds himself in the middle of Lamina and Kasaya. And Terry identifies that as well. So props to Terry for making the initial correct strategic read. And this is where it gets pretty bad.
Yes.
Because Terry walks over to Bruce with a killer offer. He says, quote, Bruce, how would you like to go to the final 5? Not a final 2, not a final 3, not a final 4. Bruce, if you join us, we'll bring you with and then cut you probably around after Kasaya is planning on cutting you.
How would you like to be on the bottom of a different alliance?
And Terry treats this like it's some incredible offer for Bruce. And Bruce genuinely considers it in the moment. And this is the section of the episode where I feel like we get a real generational difference in terms of the gameplay of Survivor. Because even though this is 2006, you have old school Survivor in Shane and Aris, and then old school Survivor in Terry. Terry doesn't want to lie to people. He'll tell Bruce straight up, you're on the outside of our group, but you're number 5 in it, you're in it nonetheless. Shane and Aris are willing to be a little bit deceptive. They go over to Bruce and they kind of hype him up. They tell him, oh, Bruce, you're the leader of this group. You're the wise member of Kasaya guiding us into the battle. You're the one who is showing us how to drink the water. You're the one showing us how to eat the fish. We love you, Bruce. We need you, Bruce. Like, they don't actually feel that way, but they're willing to lie to him, tell those lies to his face, and I think it kind of works on him. Bruce feels that emotional connection.
Yes. Yeah, I think it totally works on him. I mean, Bruce says in confessional, like, hey, it feels good to be in the middle and to have everybody want to play with me. Bruce is ahead of his time, in a way, on Survivor, where he talks a little bit like, oh, who was that guy that I really hated who went to Penn?
Drew Basile from Survivor 45.
Yeah, who always talks in the cliches.
Yeah, he was an expert in tribal councils.
Yeah, Bruce is a little bit like that. He talks very diplomatically about everything. Oh, it's so good to be in the middle. I'm in a comfortable position, and it'll help me outwit, outplay, and outlast. Like, okay, Bruce, thanks for wasting 5 minutes of production's time getting you mic'd up there. Like, moving on. Bruce seems comfortably sold, and the episode seems to be edited to play up that he's in the middle and that he's teetering. He's not teetering. He's sticking where he's at.
Yeah. And I think the key difference there between Drew Basile and Bruce is that Drew would make those comments at Tribal Council for the purpose of hiding his strategic game. He didn't want to tell Jeff what exactly he wanted to do in the next round, so he's going to give him some BS answers in the short term. Bruce is saying these generic comments in confessional where there's really no incentive to hide information. I think Bruce just genuinely looks at the game from a very surface level, and that's kind of what you get from him. But speaking of Bruce, we get an injury here. A traumatic injury.
Yes, we do. Who does it? Is it Nick or is it Austin?
It's Nick.
So Nick is cutting through a rope that Bruce is like on the other side of, and the machete cuts through the rope suddenly and goes whap into Bruce's mouth. Thankfully, it's a rusty, dull machete. You know, what you really want. It chips one of his teeth, it cuts his lip a little bit, but it's not too bad. And Bruce is like, whatever, part of the game. I'm going to keep... He takes it like a champ. No bad blood with Nick whatsoever.
In classic Bruce fashion, he's had this happen to him before. He says, quote, "I've had a tooth come through my lip before. No biggie." I don't know if I believe this.
No, I do
Bruce
actually.
Just, really?
If you're a karate guy who's been doing it for 20, 30 years, at some point you've been in a sparring match where a punch went wrong or a chop went wide and gets you in there, pushes your lip so hard that the tooth goes through.
Maybe I'm a little bit more sold. I was thinking of Bruce, the art teacher, not Bruce, the survivalist, or Bruce, the martial arts instructor.
Yeah, this wasn't a watercolor accident. This was something in karate. This was absolutely not like a Bob Ross mistake. Yeah. No. This was a Bruce Lee mistake.
There's too many levels of Bruce for me to keep track of all of them.
Let's keep talking about how bad Terry is at Survivor. Terry goes to Shane to pitch that Shane should bring himself and Sari over to Lamina. Terrible read. Shane's the one rejoicing when they keep sending him off to exile. And then he goes to Sari, makes the same pitch. And we get a great quote from Sari as she demonstrates that she doesn't really know what a dictionary is. Quote, he was like a dictionary salesman. I mean, I already have an encyclopedia. Why are you trying to sell me a dictionary? Now, I will point out, a dictionary is not the same thing as an encyclopedia at all. They are very different books. That's why they have different names. Clyde, do you know when the first English dictionary was published?
Ooh, good question. Okay. Oh, man, I feel like I'm going to absolutely butcher this answer. Because I need to think of when the first printing press...
You just have to guess century.
I'm going to lock in 1300s.
1300s? You think the dictionary predates Columbus?
Well, there were forms of text and writing before Columbus.
Of course.
So why can't there be a dictionary before Columbus?
I will point out there wasn't exactly English as we know it in like the 12th and 13th centuries. That was like Middle English, I think.
Well, see, that's where we differ. I was obviously thinking of the Middle English dictionary, which I consider the truest form of dictionary. I think I actually have a copy somewhere behind me. Yeah. It might be in my other bookcase.
The first printing press, by the way, Gutenberg invented in 1440. So
I wasn't terribly
all right. So you're gonna lock in 1300s? You're wrong. It was 120 pages long, accompanied by often single-word definitions. It was more of a thesaurus than a dictionary. But it marked the start in English of the concept of spelling. Because the idea of words having a proper spelling, like a single correct way to spell them, wasn't a thing until like the late 1600s.
Yeah, what does this have to do with Sari? What's the connection here?
I just really like that fact and wanted to share it.
Okay.
Sari doesn't know what a dictionary is, but obviously she's not going to bite. Now, here's my question for you, Clyde. Why don't we see anything between Sally, Danielle, and Courtney in this episode?
I have no clue. It would make sense. Because Sally is on the outside of that Lamina tribe. She has every incentive to flip over and connect with the young women again.
Or to talk to them and flip them to Lamina. Hey, we all hate Shane. He's a scumbag, sexist piece of crap. Leave him and join me, and we'll work with these guys for a while, and then we'll dump them too. We don't see a single strategic move from any of those younger women. We don't see a single... I mean... Cirie has this one conversation, and that's it. The rest is the men being idiots.
Yeah, most of the episode is told from the perspective of Terry and Shane. One thing you didn't even throw out, though, is that when Terry makes that pitch to Cirie, this is one of my favorite conversations in the entire episode, because we've seen Cirie demonstrate her strategic chops. She's flipped tribes on their heads multiple times this season. She did that on the older women's tribe. She did it again on the Kasaya tribe. Up until this point, I feel like Cirie's the best social strategic player on the cast. And here comes Terry. He's going to make a pitch to the biggest dog on the beach. And he says to her, quote, "Let me take the burden of tribal council off your shoulders for the next 2 weeks." Like, okay, Terry, like, Cirie is fine on her own for the next 2 weeks. You're the one on the bottom that should be making the pitch to her, not vice versa.
Let's make it easy for you. I'll tell you how to spell Shane instead of, Nick. Like, come on. It's a terrible pitch.
It's just so weird to go into that conversation with the vibe that you're the one in power. And that's kind of how Terry approaches it, both with Bruce and with Shane and Cirie. So I have more complaints with Terry later in the episode, but we can hit on those in the challenge and then leading up to Tribal Council.
Yeah, let's go to immunity. It's a good old-fashioned endurance challenge.
I don't think I've seen this one on any other season other than Panama.
Well, that could be explained by the fact that this challenge is endurance, where each contestant must be hanging from a pole like a sloth, basically, right? They're underneath it, arms around it, legs around it, hanging on for dear life. But they don't space them out very well. There's a couple of heads way too close to butts. There's a little bit, if you notice, a lot of people drop pretty quick. I think it's because this is a bit of a upside down human centipede. They did not space it well at all.
Yeah, I didn't account for the fart factor in this challenge.
And, they're 7 feet up, I'd say. 8 feet up.
Yeah, it's pretty high.
And Jeff is like, hey, if you're going to fall, please fall legs first. That's it for safety. Like, okay, I don't know what the Panamanian regulations are, but, we need a little bit more safety here. It's just not... maybe that's why we haven't seen it again. Cirie is the only one to drop in the first 10 minutes. Courtney does some interesting acrobatics where she lets her arms go. Pretty impressive. Aris drops. I noted he's probably not a very good yoga teacher if he can't last that long. But maybe he just doesn't care. Bruce, Sally, Shane drops after whining about how he wants a cheeseburger. I'm done. Shut up, Shane. I'm done with him.
He's hoping that Jeff rolls up with the Temptations and brings him some kind of food. I like the idea, but Jeff was never going to go along with it. Even Jeff seems a bit fed up with Shane right now.
It would be charming from another player. If Cirie had said it, fantastic. Yes. Shane, anything he says is either whining or complaining, and I'm not here for it. It comes down to the 3 Lamina men remaining. At about 30 minutes, Austin drops, and it comes down to Nick or Terry. Nick drops at 46 minutes, and Terry wins immunity. Now, there's a little asterisk there. Austin had an idea while he was hanging there upside down. To make himself look weak, he starts struggling, or at least acting like he's struggling, and he drops out. Let me just say, he does this after being up there for 30 minutes. So he's already in 3rd place, and then he's like, you know what? Let me look weak.
I think he just lost it fair and square. There is something to that idea, though. I feel like part of the reason why Austin sticks around this week is because that Kasaya tribe perceives Nick as the better physical competitor. Maybe it had some impact on the vote. The real questionable decision from Austin is the fact that he owns up to throwing the challenge later at Tribal Council, but we'll hit on that later.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think the bigger thing for Nick is the machete. I think that's really the tiebreaker, because there's a few conversations among the Kasaya members where they're like, we don't care which one of them goes as long as one of them goes, right? Well, let me ask you this. What place should you drop out if you want to look weak? You don't go first, because that's sus.
You can't go out before Suri. If you go out before Suri, then that's super sus. But if you go out at any point after Suri, I think you're good. I also have a take on the outcome of this challenge. Because when it's just Terry and Nick up there, I am yelling at my TV screen, Terry, throw the challenge. Drop out now. What are you doing? Terry should know that he's the biggest threat on the board from Lamina. If Terry drops out of that challenge, all the votes pile on Terry. He plays the idol, and he gives the Lamina people a chance at flipping the game in their favor. By winning that immunity challenge, if he decides to play the idol, which he doesn't even consider, and we'll talk about that leading up to Tribal. If he wins that challenge, now it's a guessing game. Do I give the idol to Austin? Do I give it to Nick? Do I give it to Sally? It's way safer to just throw the challenge and use the idol on yourself. And I feel like Terry is so caught up in that old school Survivor approach of, I'm going to give it my best in every challenge, no matter what. He kind of looks at the challenges as isolated events, which we also see in the pre-merge, where he cuts Dan, his number one ally at that time, mainly because Dan wasn't contributing in challenges. So I think Terry's reaching Meat Boy status for me.
I think that's a really good way to put it. He is viewing the challenges in isolation. He's seeing them like there's two forms of Survivor, and it's the first part of the show is, hey, we have these challenges, and if you win them, you get fun prizes like this cool necklace. And then you go back to camp and you decide to vote someone off unrelated, right? Like, he is not connecting the dots in a way that you would like to see somebody of his caliber connect the dots. So I think that's well said. Post-challenge, Austin feels like he's the target. He is playing up that he's a victim. We get this very weird, and maybe this is an early 2000s thing and we just don't understand it because we're, youths. There's a lot of praying in this show. Have you noticed that?
I think it's a cultural thing when it comes to these old school seasons.
Like,
it was a more religious society. It was more common that contestants would do this, and it was more common that production would actually show it with the final product.
It's a lot. Like, he's like, can you pray with me? And he hugs him. Well, let me set the scene, Clyde. Let me set the scene. Two men, both shirtless, on a beach. One comes to the other, despondent. Bruce, can we pray together? And then they're hugging for the whole prayer. While, by the way, we're on day 16 or 17. No showers. If somebody came up to me sobbing and asked for a long hug, but neither of us have showered in 17 days, even if we're fully clothed, no. There is too much physical proximity there. I'm just against that.
Okay. No contact for Jack between days 17 and 39 on Survivor.
No
one touch me.
No, I will never stop saying I'm never going on this show. Absolutely never. And maybe someday I'll end up on Survivor and there'll be a supercut of me over 10 years saying I'm never going on Survivor.
Yeah,
but
the flashback.
Absolutely not. And this is just reason 10 million. Is this strategy of Austin's at all worthwhile, this playing up of the victim card? I'm saying the whole prayer, acting like, it's my time, that whole thing he says is an act.
Then I think that's a pretty questionable moral decision on Austin's end, because he's going over to Bruce, the person in the middle, and saying, will you pray to God with me in hopes that I stay? Knowing that Bruce is the one who holds Austin's fate in his hands.
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess God is kind of serving as the telephone line. You go Austin, up to God, and then down to Bruce, who's embracing him in that exact moment. So I think that's a little bit questionable moral decision on Austin's end, but I guess he gets away with it because of that sweet, sweet Southern accent.
I just have to highlight again here. Nobody ever approaches Courtney and Danielle. I get that this is an era of Survivor where there's just way more sexism, right? There's way more isms of every sort, right? Like, we're not watching the most inclusive and welcoming and good-natured program. It is just baffling to me that none of those three dudes on Lamina seem to have even considered approaching those women. And what we get here, instead, is Shane summoning his people, blowing his horn, calling the troops to order, making them all stand in a circle around him and hold hands.
The hand-holding was unnecessary.
In front of Lamina, right? It's not like he said, hey, let's just all go look for firewood and made some tiny excuse. They're doing it right in front of them. It's awful.
It's a rough watch, and it doesn't feel cohesive with the storyline of the entire pre-merge. I felt like half of the Kasaya tribe at one point in the pre-merge said, I cannot wait we get to the merge. That way I can bounce and jump ship. In fact, I think Bruce said that when he was in the Casa de Charmin with Bob Dog. The two of them agreed to flip over to Lamina. And now the opportunity is here. The time has come, and no one really wants to do it. It's also super strange that Shane is serving as the leader of this group when 36 hours ago, he was begging Danielle and Courtney to release him of his son's name so he could work as a free agent. So I don't know what happened with Kasaya that caused this drastic shift in their perception.
Well, I think it's just a tribal mentality, right? It is a herd mentality, not even a tribe, a herd mentality. Oh, others. We have created in our minds this distinction, right? Human minds love to categorize. We love to put things into boxes. Us and them, light and dark, good and bad, tasty and not tasty. Like, oh, do I want to eat the nuts or do I want to eat the squirrel, right? Which thing is going to be tastier for me? I don't know why that's where my brain went, but
yeah.
Anyway, it's this primal mentality of you are not one of the people I'm with, so I'm not going to work with you. I'm going to stick with my people. I'm safer where I am than jumping ship or even considering to jump ship. I think it's an interesting... Survivor likes to claim it's a experiment, like a reflection of society, right? Especially early on. Like,
well, even in modern seasons, Jeff is always saying, like, we built a society on this beach.
Right.
That's one of his buzzwords for sure.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that this characteristic has kind of been drummed out of the show. To a certain extent, when you hit the merge, those lines aren't so bold anymore.
I also think it's important to throw out that this merge is happening just a day or two after Kasaya went to that local Panamanian fishing village. They just had this experience coming together with the local community. And some of the contestants said in confessional there that their perception of that tribe shifted in that moment. I felt like had Kasaya lost that immunity challenge and went into the merge, even numbers 5-5, I bet they disband because they don't have really a strategic advantage to sticking together, and they don't have that emotional connection with each other anymore. So I feel like that reward might have actually had an impact on this season.
That's a good point.
Last thing I'll say before we get to Tribal Council is Terry and the Idol. Now, Terry, throughout the entire pre-merge, has been standing on his little stool and saying, I'm the leader of Lamina. I'm the one who catches the fish. I'm the one who takes the bullet and goes to Exile Island. I'm the one who is deciding who is staying and who is going. I'm the head of this group, and I care about these people. When Dan is voted out of the game, I will stand up and salute him because I respect him so much. Terry puts himself in the spotlight of this tribe. And yet when the going gets tough, and Terry is safe, and all of his disciples are vulnerable, we don't even get a confessional of Terry considering passing that idol to another player. I don't think it's a super risky move on Terry's end either. He could give the idol to Nick, and if the votes are on Nick, he's saved and they're good. Or if he's wrong and he gives the idol to Austin, Austin could give that idol back in the next tribal council. Terry needs to believe in the connections that he made in hopes that someone like Austin would return that item. And I think there's a good chance that a player like Austin would do that.
I mean, it's just mediocre play is what it is. And we don't know why. That's what it boils down to. Sally's here, by the way. Okay, what's the term in Survivor for this thing? One tribe comes in with the majority and just runs the game.
That's called a pagonging. It's from the first season of Survivor. There was the Tagi tribe and the Pagong tribe. Tagi went into the merge, got the numbers advantage, and then just picked each member of Pagong off one by one. So now, whenever that plays out, they call it a pagonging. Yeah. Do you think that's where this season is going?
It feels like it, especially based on the edit. Like, if something interesting were brewing with the ladies defecting, this would be a great time to see it. We keep seeing trouble brewing, but it never hits a boil. Like, it's just like, oh, will it happen? No.
Yeah. I will say with Kasaya, though, they're such a crazy and dysfunctional group that there is a chance that they mess it up for themselves. I think the thing that would save this season from a pagonging would not be the excellent play of Lamina, but rather the misplay of Kasaya. Going to Tribal Council, not a ton to hit on here. Shane calls out Bruce for his different connections on the island, and Bruce is just loving the love.
Yes.
He says, I feel they respect me, and I have a high respect towards all of them. I don't know if they actually respect Bruce all that much.
No, we know they don't.
We also get Austin openly admitting that he intentionally threw the immunity challenge to appear weak, which kind of destroys the entire plan to begin with. Like, you might as well see that through and get through the Tribal Council first. I feel like Austin is taking a page out of the Dan Fuego textbook in walking into Tribal Council and just quitting.
Or trying to. It doesn't work. He torches his credibility and gets nothing for it. I do want to throw out also that Jeff wants somebody to flip so bad. This season has been kind of a banner season for Jeff's leading questions at Tribal. He asks 4 different members of Kasaya individually, wouldn't it be so shocking if someone flipped? Right? He's trying so hard to lead them to it, right? He wants them to flip. He needs them to flip. He doesn't want this to be a pagonging.
Do you think Jeff wants the flip for the sake of an entertaining episode, or is he actively rooting against Kasaya?
I think he's rooting against Kasaya because he doesn't want that majority to rule, right? Like, he wants these to be contentious votes.
See, I think Jeff knows that Kasaya is the more entertaining group between the two of them. He sat through all those Lamina Tribal Councils. He knows that the Lamina players aren't going to give him much. I think he just wants the fireworks in that one moment.
Listen, if the edit has proven anything, it's that there's a lot of people on Kasaya who don't need to be there. There's some people on Lamina who don't need to be there. Are we really losing much with Nick going home in terms of, like, dynamic television? No. But we need some, competition for a little while in this tribe before it just becomes a Kasaya eating itself.
I think the one positive with a potential Kasaya dominant run in the post-merge is the fact that we don't know who's really running the Kasaya tribe. If they were to boil down to just that group of 6, what's the core of that group? I have no clue. In the past, you'll have seasons where there's a pagonging.
It's the women.
The women
Danielle, Courtney, and Suri.
See, I don't think it's that cut and dry on this season. In past seasons, you've seen groups where they have a pagonging, and it's so blatantly obvious. There's a Joe and Eva at the middle of the entire thing. There isn't a tight-knit unit like that in Kasaya.
That's fair. That's very fair.
But your vote, pretty straightforward here. It's a 6-4. We still get 4 votes on Shane from every Lamina member. Sally votes with Lamina, despite being on the outside of that group for most of the season. Nick, on his way out, turns around and throws some socks to Cherie, which I thought was really nice. It proves that even though Nick didn't get a lot of screen time, he's still a genuinely good person, but it also highlights the elite social game of Cherie. That she's having people giving her free articles of clothing on the way out.
Listen, I want to talk about socks. Like, the sock mental gain that Cherie is getting. Think back, Clyde, if you will, to Jason from Survivor Samoa. When his socks were burned, it ruined his mental game. this has just given Suri a massive asset going into the rest of the season. Like, you cannot quantify how this is Survivor analytics. The math can't be done on how valuable this is.
Yeah, if you slow down the replay, when Suri catches those socks, you can see her brain expand. Her IQ increases with each sock that she puts on her foot.
I want to give a little shout out to Nick. This is not my honorable mention, but just a shout out to, granted, one of the most boring players on the season.
Oh, maybe one of the most boring contestants we've ever covered on the pod.
Like, he's not bad. He just never really has a personality shine in the edit. He has a very nice exit moment at the end of the episode, where instead of talking about his game or his regrets or anything like that, he says the following. All you kids that are in your mid-20s that are in my situation, confused, not sure which direction life is pulling you, I urge you, please, be hungry, be foolish, block out the noise, find yourselves, be who you potentially are, and be true to your dreams. I find it really refreshing that instead of like, I didn't see this coming, what a brutal vote, oh well, like instead of it being something hand-wringing, we get this great little motivational speech and message to, hopefully lift somebody up out there. I really like that. And it's redeemed Nick in my eyes. And now he's like high up in my ranking of the cast this season.
No way. You cannot put Nick in the top 10. Okay,
he's top 10.
I guess maybe top 10 on a 16-person cast.
Yeah.
That's not an outrageous take. I do wish we got a returning player season with Nick and Jason. The sock giver and the sock loser.
Does Jason ever come back?
Jason never comes back, and you probably guessed it, Nick never returns either. I didn't watch his exit interview where he talked about chasing your dreams, but he took that advice to heart, and he pivoted careers after Survivor. I think he was a financial salesperson when he went on the show, and as of March 2020, he was working as a spine specialist at Globus Medical. So he wanted to go into the medical field and help people out in healthcare, which is really cute. So good for you, Nick. Side note, I don't have any epitaphs at this point in the season because that starts at the jury phase, and Nick is not on the jury. The first member of the jury will be next week.
Oh, really? Okay, so this is kind of emergatory.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way. It's basically all the elements of a normal mergatory without the title. So you'll need to wait to hear that first epitaph. Winner of the episode. We can hop right into winners and losers.
Let's do it. Who's your winner?
You're going to hate this. I already know.
Shane?
I'm giving the winner to Shane. Yeah. You need to give Shane credit. Because last week, it seemed like he was on the bottom of Kasaya. He was dead to rights if that group goes to tribal council. In the span of 48 hours, he went from the bottom of that tribe to the leader, bringing them together to hold the hands and decide who to vote out. So I think his game has completely turned around. With that said, do I think he could make it to the end given his alliances on Kasaya? Probably not. But he's in a way better spot now than he was last episode.
I think it's a fair take. I'm fine with that. He's in a great spot right now.
Who's your winner then?
I don't think you're going to like it.
Is it Terry?
It's Bruce.
It's Bruce? For what? Why? What did Bruce do this week? Bruce committed himself to a tribe that doesn't want to work with him. The only progress Bruce made this week was not in his strategic game. It was in the rock garden.
He didn't have to leave it. He got to keep it. Yeah. I gave it to Bruce because I feel like we have been given a merge tribe where the tone has been set. This is a game for men. We don't care about the women for some reason, for no good reason. Of the men, somehow I think Bruce is in the best spot. Okay? Nobody dislikes him. We've seen from the women when they do get to speak, not often enough, that they trust him, right? We got a moment from Danielle and Courtney saying they trust him a couple weeks ago. Terry likes Bruce. Terry's not closing the door on Bruce, necessarily. I think he's in a really good spot to make a deep run. Is he going to shoot himself in the foot with some comment or flippant remark? Yes. He doesn't have a deep knowledge of the game or seem to approach it from a deep place. But I think he has some really good relationships, and I see him making a decent stretch into the game.
A deep Bruce run would not be due to the actions of Bruce himself. It would be Bruce attaching himself to the women of Kasaya.
But would that not be the fruit of his labor with the rock garden? He has created a space of tranquility for everybody on this tribe. They are all calmed by his presence.
No.
I think it all comes back to Bruce. Listen, he's the puppet master, Clyde. He's pulling the strings.
He is not pulling the strings.
Who's your loser?
He's actually pushing the woman away from the rock garden when Courtney tries to do her yoga there.
For now, he is pushing them to be better.
And he has 2 locked enemies on the cast in Aris and Shane. But okay, I'll give my loser away. This should be obvious. It's going to Terry. If Terry was going to flip the game in Lamina's favor, this was the week to do it. And he didn't. 1, because he's selfish, because he didn't want to pass the idol to anybody else, despite him claiming that he's this team-oriented player. And 2, because he's not that strategic, and he cares more about winning the immunity necklace than winning the entire game. So, I've been kind of low on Terry this whole season. I said in the pre-merge that Austin was really the one running that tribe, and you kept telling me, nah, Terry's got it all under control. He's got the idol. I don't know. I think you were blinded by Yule. The fact that Yule had the idol back on Cook Islands, and you just transferred that over to Terry.
I mean, Terry really disappointed this week. I did not pick Terry as my loser, but I'm not going to argue a single point you just made. I think he has a horrific strategic grasp on the game. That being said, my loser is Austin because Terry still has the idol. Just in terms of how I pick winners and losers, Terry will go 1 episode further than Austin, bare minimum. So he's not my loser. Austin is my loser. That's it. That's the only reason.
See, I think there's a chance that Terry does not go an episode further than Austin because the second Terry loses immunity, Kasai's going to dump all the votes on him. So you would have an episode where a Kasaya person goes home when Terry gets safe, and then the next time Terry's vulnerable, he gets voted out. But that is fair. I don't think Austin's playing a particularly great game right now. He was great through the first 6 episodes of the season, but this was definitely his worst performance.
For sure.
I'm going to give a dishonorable mention to the Survivor medical team. They don't have a dentist on staff. Bruce took that hit to the face, chipped his tooth, could have needed a root canal, could have had damage to the nerve of that tooth. Even though it's happened to him before, doesn't mean we should just let it go by without a medical examination. So I'm an advocate for Bruce's dental health, and maybe that would help me get a job in the future. I do think that they should have some kind of dental staff member on Survivor, and I don't think they do even today.
I mean, why would they?
For incidents like this.
But, that's a one-off.
It's a one-off until it happens. And then Bruce has 3 different teeth piercing through his cheeks, and they gotta get out the helicopter and bring him back to whatever Panamanian hospital they can get him to. You want to have someone there that knows what they're talking about. And you know what? I'll go a step further. Let's get every medical specialist on the Survivor medical team.
Okay.
I want an optometrist. I want a dentist. I want
an
podiatrist.
Optometrist? All right.
No, ophthalmologist is eyes. Optometrist is glasses. But you know what? Let's have both of them on there anyway.
No.
I want every single specialist on the staff.
Here's what you need. You need emergency medicine, which is, I'm sure, what they have. Honestly, maybe a dentist is number 2.
There you go. See?
I can't think of it. I think if you were to add anything else, I guess it's a dentist. Nothing else seems to matter.
And maybe this is a need more so in old school Survivor than new school Survivor. Because in old school, you had some challenges that were really physical. This might be stretching your memory, but there was a challenge back in the pre-merge of Samoa where contestants were battling in a ring.
Hold on. Pre-merge of Samoa?
Yeah.
That's 4 years ago.
That's 2 years ago, I want to say.
Almost 3, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's 2.5, but
yeah.
There's a challenge in the pre-merge of Samoa where the contestants are in this ring and they're fighting over balls and shooting those balls into baskets. And I think his name is Mike Barassi. Gets medically evacuated from the game because of an injury that he sustains in that challenge. It's a physical challenge where contestants are pushing each other, knocking them over. On this season, we had that challenge in the pre-merge where the contestants had to dig up the sandbags and run them back to their respective mats. There are challenges in old school Survivor that require physical contact, even if you might not like touching someone that's smelly after 17 days. So when you have those physical challenges, you could get a knock to the face, and then you might need a dentist. So let's get him on the staff.
I think you should be the dentist on their staff. Go submit a resume. You know what? I'm going to pull a boomer move. Clyde, why don't you just call Jeff Probst and give him your resume and say, Jeff, let me be your dentist. I'm a big fan of the show. I'm sure he'd be really refreshed by that.
I think the true boomer move would be going to Jeff's house with my resume, print it out, not in a PDF, and saying, Jeff, here's my resume. I want a job and I want to start on Monday.
All right. My honorable mention, and this, I'm going to try really hard to not make this a bummer. My honorable mention goes to the Romani people, also known as the Roma or the Romani, or Gypsies, right, as the tribe name this week, which is, oh gosh, I had it pulled up. It's in Spanish, Gitanos, the Spanish word for gypsy. Now, the word gypsy, I'm using it here. Some Roma embrace it. Some consider it to be a slur. So it's not, a really cut and dried one that's clear. There are between 2 and 12 million Roma across the world, primarily in Europe. They're a nomadic, itinerant people who originally came from Southeast Asia, likely Punjab and Sindh, the regions of India, that migrated to Europe between the 5th and 11th centuries. Okay, the Romani people have a very rich culture. They are very widespread, but they have been and continue to be incredibly discriminated against in all sorts of truly awful ways. And so I think it's important to acknowledge the Roma people as this incredible group. I mean, in a world where most people are fixed in place, right? This is a nomadic people that still exist and still operate in some places in a nomadic way. I think that's really a wonderful example of a different human culture that can exist. And I don't know why they decided to go with the Gitanos for this tribe. They don't really explain it. But I felt like it was worth a little bit of a history lesson on the Roma people to just sort of, give a shout out. It's a great Wikipedia page. Totally worth a dive. But just wanted to give a little cultural context there.
There we go. Okay, so episode 8 in the books. Going deeper into the post-merge next week. Start to build out the jury. Are you feeling optimistic about the season moving forward?
No, I'm not. Listen. I'm not feeling great about this season. I feel like this is going to be the first pagonging that I have seen, and I'm not going to be thrilled by it. And I'm going to see a final, is it 2 or 3? Final 2, I feel like it's going to be Shane and Suri. That's the vibe I'm getting from this season, and I'm not excited about it.
I'm surprised. I felt like a week or two ago, we were both saying that this might be the best season that we've covered on the pod.
How are you feeling after this episode?
I still feel fine.
Yeah?
To be honest.
Do? Well, okay.
If we lose
why?
Nick,
Because I'm down.
If we lose
bring
Nick,
me up.
I'm not devastated. What is Nick doing for the show at large?
No,
yes,
but
it's an uneventful vote.
It's the tone. It feels like we were facing two paths in the woods, right? A little bit of poetry for you. Robert Frost, right? One less traveled made all the difference. Whatever. We could have had a tie, a contentious mix 'em up. We're not going with old tribal lines. And instead, we stuck with them. If it's going to be a 6-3 majority for the next week, and then a 6-2, and a 6-1, and then a 6-1, or then a 5-1, right? That will not be good TV. I am dreading that possibility.
That could be a rough possibility. I wouldn't jump to any conclusions yet, though. I think in a lot of seasons, especially in the new era, you called this episode essentially the Mergatory. How often is a Mergatory vote a crazy tribal council? More often than not, it's the person that's already on the outside that everyone agrees to vote out. It's the Josh in Survivor 44, the guy who lied about being the personal trainer. So I think generally these merge episodes are built up to be major marks in the season, but more often than not, they're straightforward votes. So even though the Nick vote was straightforward, doesn't mean the rest of the season will follow suit. But thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week where hopefully we will not see a pagonging here on Survivor Panama, but you'll need to wait and see.